It's nice to like actually finally meet you.
Yeah, mate, we've been working together for a while now.
A while, like two years, 2 years, I think, since yeah, really since COVID started, and I was just twiddling my thumbs, getting fat, and I was like, well, what should I do? Maybe get in shape. So here we are.
So how's your training going throughout the challenge?
It's
Or throughout
good. It's good.
the run?
Yeah, it's been really good. So we're in the last week now, obviously, and I've been doing this for so long with you, and no, I mean, feels like I've learned so much. So it's good. I'm just pushing it, especially the weekend. Um, my girlfriend goes to the gym quite a bit too, so she's able to spot me, so I can really like max out on whatever I need to do.
That's handy.
Um, yeah, so it's been a really good kind of last week of the program. I'm really happy with where I'm at for all things. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I love like the low rep ranges because it's faster and it just makes me it's just a nice relief, I guess, you know.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
I despise higher rep work. And even recently, like some of the research has been some of it has been encouraging lower rep ranges. So that's why I've kind of made that transition down there, because
Yeah.
you get closer to the reps that count earlier on. Because
Hmm.
like, let's say we did 15 reps. The first 10 are kind of a little bit easy
Yeah, for sure.
until you get to those ones that are hard. So you're still technically training to failure. But the kind of question is, well, why are we waiting 10 reps to get there? Why don't we just do the last 5?
Hmm.
Well,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
cut out the middleman, exactly.
yeah, kind of. Yeah, like our joints may take a little bit more of a hit and,
Hmm.
need a bit more time to recover. But yeah, that's the general consensus. I'm kind of bringing the rep range slowly down. Like there's still benefit for like, I think certain exercises do benefit from higher rep ranges. Like doing 3 reps on a lateral raise doesn't feel the best. Like
Yeah.
it feels a bit like swingy, or it feels like, like, yeah, there's certain exercises that don't really line up with it. But yeah, that's the general way. So what have you been trying to like pursue?
Yeah,
Like,
so I'm doing a fat loss level 2 right
oh,
now, mostly
nice.
because I'm going on vacation next week, going to a beach vacation to Hawaii. So I'm like, well, I gotta shed a
Cool.
little bit here. So yeah, I've only really done fat loss level 1 and 2 before from a fat loss perspective. I've done
Yeah.
muscle building and maintenance too, but so I did level 2 this time just because I was like, it's been a big summer, so wanted to shed a little bit. So I'm down to like 167 pounds, so 76 kg, about 15% body fat, probably around there. So
Cool.
pretty good. I've gone down to like 162 pounds before, like 13-14% body fat. Um, and so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm almost like pretty much going by body fat percentage in terms of
Cool.
like measuring for myself. Like that's just I like to for me that's like a good benchmark is what I've learned. So
So how are you measuring that? The
well,
percentage?
yeah, it's always like subjective. I'm sure you know. Like I don't have like calipers. I don't go in and get like a DEXA scan or anything like that or whatever they
Okay,
are.
yeah, yeah.
I could, but I don't. I mean, I have a scale. It's just like actually I think generally accurate, and you can compare it to like people images online. Anyone can Google like
I feel like
15%.
images are one of the best ways to do it.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I do. I mean, I estimate I'm probably 14 to 16%. My scale says 15 on the dot, so somewhere in there I would assume.
Yeah, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, my scale's terrible. It says I'm like 25%, but it's just way off. I don't know what.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, I just use it for my weight.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know if you'd be in the personal training business with those numbers.
It'd be a tough slog, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where, at least training wise or nutrition wise, I'm at. I mean, I've luckily been able to like really own in on it the last few weeks. Like, haven't been eating out or anything, which I know for a lot of people is a big thing. Like for me, I'm just laser focused on it, and
Yeah,
um, really just like I hit my numbers down to like the gram because myself, like I know myself. If I like go off the wagon a little bit, like I go off the wagon.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
like for me, it's all about the discipline, and that's like the testament to you kind of like just over these last couple of years with you. It's been good, and I've learned that about myself throughout this. Like I like staying disciplined. Like now for me, it's like it's weird if I don't like weigh my meal out or something like that at home, like just for my own head. So I mean, I still go out and do stuff with friends and all that stuff,
Yeah.
obviously, but
Yeah, no, I'm super similar, man. Like I have chose fat loss for this challenge too. I thought I'd just jump on it. I wanted to get a bit leaner. No real reason. Just wanted to kind of like, I was just like, oh, I feel a bit like I'd never really weighed that much consistently. Like I was on the heavier end. So I just like kind of chopped it down. And I was traveling last weekend. We went to a wedding, so we flew and all that kind of stuff. And that's tricky to like follow, like with
Uh-huh.
food and all that, because I was the same as you, tracking, trying to get very accurate protein, this
Yeah.
and everything, weighing stuff. And even if I was eating out like burgers, I still love burgers. Like this place that I eat at, you can like put them in MyFitnessPal, and they have, it's not going to be the same every time, but it's as close as you can when you're eating out. So I was very onto it.
Hmm.
And over the wedding, I was like a little bit worried, like not super,
Yeah, for
but,
sure.
but pretty like, man, there's going to be some big obstacles today. So I kind of like pushed calories back and all that kind of stuff. And I ended up doing all right. Like there was like all these things I didn't really eat. I didn't have cake, and I'm not a huge cake fan. So it wasn't, if it was gelato, it might've been a different story, but it was just the cake. So I just kind of
Yeah.
left it. But then like these meals came out, and they were like beef cheeks, mashed potato, and green beans. And I was like, man, this is like a meal prep service. So I was eating
Yeah,
that.
that's nice.
And I ended up like, airport food and all that kind of stuff. I ended up hitting my target a week early, like I kind of posted. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, so now I'm at this week just maintaining. Um, and I'm still tracking and weighing my food, because I'm the same as you. If I let it go and don't track and just say like, I'm just going to be a bit more chill and just maintain, my maintain just ends up, I just gain weight. Like I've never really met anyone that's just like eyeballing their food and staying the same. Like we always just kind of like give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. Oh, it's probably low. Oh, it's going to be all good. And then you just kind of like slowly gain. So I'm going to
Hmm.
do like a real dedicated build on this, like very lean, very like small surplus, because we don't need a huge surplus, and like try and minimize fat gain and like maximize muscle gain. Is
Yeah.
your plan similar on the back of like your diet and going to Hawaii
Yeah,
and
that's
try and
that's
build out
kind
of
of
it?
where I am. And I guess that leads me to maybe a question for you. And I don't know how if other people are in the situation, but I've worked with you now for 2 years. I've actually, I don't think I've ever changed my protein. I've always been at like 170 grams, basically.
That's fine.
Um,
Protein's a constant. We don't need to change it.
okay. And I didn't know, like, eventually, I mean, I really feel like I've made some pretty good progress, honestly, over the last year. Like I look totally different in a good
Awesome.
way. Um,
You'll
and
have
I
to send
didn't
me some
know if I
photos,
should
man.
ever
I
start.
haven't seen.
Yeah, no, I will for sure. Yeah, I'll send them over to you. And so I never knew, because like obviously I trust you. Any like I don't know how people end up getting in these 200-gram protein ranges, 220-gram protein ranges after how many years at the bottom of a cut. Like, should I do that? And I feel like I've done it long enough now. I didn't know if I should just continue to keep my protein where it's at, which I know is generally high, or if I want to get to that next level, like, is there a time I should start increasing it? Because all I do is yo-yo my carbs up and down pretty much when if building and
Yeah.
maintenance and cutting, which is I know fine, but like if I want to take it to the next level, I don't know. Wanted to kind of run it by you and see
Yeah,
what you
no,
thought.
yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, we don't really need to bump it up to a higher end. If
Hmm.
anything, it's more for me like a safety blanket.
Got it.
Like like I might have too much, but like at least I have too much. Like at least I'm not gonna have not enough.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And because like the only downside to it is, first of all, it's not damaging to your health if you have a higher protein. It's only potentially damaging if it's like above 4 grams per kilo, which is crazy. I'd have to hit
Yeah.
360 grams a day. Like
Yeah, there's no way.
what I'd have to eat to hit that. But yeah, I couldn't do that. So the only downfall to having protein that may be too high for your needs is that you get less calorie distribution for your carbohydrates and fats. That's the only downfall. And
Hmm.
I actually particularly like protein high foods. Like
Same.
I enjoy meat. I'm like eating my yogurt.
Yogurt.
Just
Yeah,
like
there you go.
I'm just absolutely smashing that. And I have like high protein milk, and like I've just kind of like created a life that's around a high protein lifestyle. So I don't actually mind hitting the higher protein, but yeah, that's the only downfall is like
Hmm.
less carbs and potentially less fat. But fat's usually cool. It's more so just carbs, like you said, that we're going up and down with, because fats
Yeah.
should really stay the same too,
Hmm.
in the same spot. But So that could be like, okay, carbohydrates is more fuel. So potentially that might mean like your workouts may not be as punchy, but usually that's not the case. So, I think for you, it would be worth a trial. Like I'm a big believer in like, as you get leaner, you need a bit more protein because you have less body fat stores, and stored body fat is stored energy. So if you think of like sparing your muscle mass, if you have quite high body fat, you probably don't need the highest amount of protein because you have a lot of body fat that is stored. Body's going to use that before it uses muscle because there's so much of it. But as you get leaner, like you're saying, your body's changed a lot in the last year, and your body fat's relatively low. 15 and lower is considered, I'd say, low, like your athletic region. Then potentially you could look at bumping it up to spare that muscle mass when you get leaner, especially when dieting. When you're building, it's kind of less important because you do have those extra calories and carbohydrates behind you. So you're not really at the risk of losing muscle because you have so much energy behind you in the form of calories and carbohydrates. But in a cut, maybe you could look at it and just see how you feel on it and see how your body responds. There's no real like, oh, that's going to be bad for you, that's going to be good for you, because there's a range, 1.6 to 2.5. Like you can, have this big range. You could be at like maybe 120, or you personally could be at maybe like 200, something like that. I'm at 225, which seems like a lot. Like it's pretty scary. That's why I have such big heapings of protein in my foods. But I think it's something that you just trial out and kind of go from there, see how you feel. And if it's not making a big change, like carbohydrates, probably a little bit more exciting than protein food. So you could just kind of keep it at 170. But
yeah, and I'm kind of like you. I love protein. I mean, for me, if anything, I have to like watch my protein intake because I love it. So, yeah, I was thinking about in the kind of the timing of it. Like I'm almost at the bottom of my cut pretty much after this week.
Yeah.
I'll probably be down to what, like, assuming I'm on the right path, like 13-14% body fat. Like I might try to bump up the protein. I was thinking, somewhere in like 200 range just to try it. And I did want to do probably like a bulk. I kind of want to try that again as we go into the winter here in the States. So that's kind of what I was toying around with, and I'd love to get your thoughts if you think that's a reasonable range or a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's worth it, and just kind of like be aware of how everything feels. It's hard to like track everything, but like, maybe your workouts will feel better. Maybe your like protein is pretty satiating as well, so it helps feel more full. So that's another kind of diet hack, if you will, to help you feel more satiated and be less hungry, is to like gear towards more protein. People find that it can really stop them eating a bit more. I haven't necessarily felt that. I still feel hungry in a deficit no matter what. I'm just like, I'm just hungry, man. Like, I don't know what to do. It's just the fact that, you're in a deficit of energy. Of course you're going to be hungry, but maybe that is kind of like the best way that I feel. But yeah, I think it's worth toying around for sure.
Okay.
Are you taking creatine?
I'm actually not. Not right now. I have before. Yeah, I probably will again. I'm just out of it, honestly. So I haven't gone back to buy it. So I plan on it unless you think otherwise.
Have you felt difference using it?
Yeah, I feel generally a little different. I mean, to me, I feel like I'm always fairly good. I mean, when I'm in a deficit, I'm never really like dragging super hard at the gym. Like I try to get a little bit of carbs in my system no matter what before the gym, even if I'm in a deficit or kind of a bulk, whatever. Like I try to use that as kind of fuel a little bit. I mean, it just goes back to, I guess, having an athletic background, probably similar to you, maybe carb up a little bit in the morning before a sports game. And feel better. So yeah, I never like really feel like I'm dragging. So I think the creatine, I think it helped. And I definitely was going to plan on it again after this challenge. I just haven't been back, and probably go after my trip to get some.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think it's good to take. I just stay on it year round. But yeah, sometimes like I didn't take it when I traveled. So that's probably not the best thing because it's something you need to take on a daily basis. But yeah, I'd recommend just doing that, especially when you're building or even when you're cutting. It's just like something nice to do that like the research behind it, none of it's negative. So it's kind of just like, like, what am I doing? Like the only thing is like people respond at different rates. That's why I asked you how you feel. I feel good, but I've been on it for so long, I don't, potentially know what it's, maybe
Yeah,
it's
like a placebo.
yeah, that's right. But even if it plays a placebo, it's playing its role.
Yeah.
They're cheap enough to, yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah,
Um,
but I know you don't do like BCAs, any of that stuff, and I can attest to that. I remember before I knew what I was doing, I was like taking that stuff, thinking it made some sort of difference. I was like, oh, this is what a waste, what a waste of money. So if anyone listens to this, you don't need that stuff. I'm a testament to it. That's just garbage marketing.
yeah, I was doing that too, man. I was doing that too. It just showed, yeah. If you have your protein goal, it's like there's enough BCAAs in the protein diet that you're having. I used to do it too, though. I was religious about it. I was eating. I mean, not eating like BCAA shaker throughout the whole workout.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I need to sustain my muscle building or else it's going to break down and I'm going to lose it.
Yeah, it's all the BCAAs, nothing else. That's what they tell you. Like, yeah, right.
Yeah, man.
What a joke.
I guess we all live and we learn, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, creatine. So I'll definitely make sure I get back on that after my upcoming trip. And yeah, I was probably gonna hop into a bulk, probably like level 1, just because kind of like you, like even if I'm at maintenance or a little over, like it's easy for me to gain a little body fat percentage. So
Yeah.
I definitely am careful of trying to be mindful of it as I go into a bulk, where you gain some body fat, obviously, but just being measured about it or disciplined about it, not completely falling off the wagon.
And how's your strength going with
Good.
exercises? Because I remember you were training at home when we were working together.
You're right.
And then we transitioned here.
Yeah, and for anyone else who has to train at home, Brock's home workouts are great. They made a world difference for me, which was literally just bands, and I had like those Bowflex weights. I went up to like 50 pounds or whatever they were.
Yeah.
And that was great as is. So now that I have gym access, it's like, whoa, the whole world's opened up. So strength wise, it's been great being able to like do deadlifts or squats, all that actual kind of big compound lifts or whatever they might be. So it's been really good. Strength wise, I feel really good. I mean, I guess bench is like a common barometer, but I usually do like 195 on the 3 reps, 195 pounds for 3 reps, which for me is like, that's more than I weigh.
Yeah, I have to find the kilos. I can't really
I know we need a little converter here, but
there you go.
Yeah, there you go. 86 kilos. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
So I guess since me, for it's more than my body weight, like I feel good about it.
Yeah, that's solid.
But for me, like I always prioritize form. Like I'd way rather get the tempo right than just to like hit big numbers for me. Like if I have to go 2 weeks in a row at the same time because maybe my form wasn't so good on the same weight last week, like I'd rather just do same weight the next week and make sure instead of like rushing it and going 2 seconds down that I'm actually hitting 3 seconds down. Like for me, that's paramount.
Yeah, that's so good. And that's a way of applying progressive overload, because like if you just hit the same weight the next week, that technically isn't.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going from, let's say, 90% good form to 100% good form, that is a way of progressively overloading, because it's like you've increased the stimulus to the muscle because your form is better. And also on there, I have been thinking about this a lot lately. Like we need to look at reps as a standard. Like over here, right? A long black or an Americano, like a standard is like 2 shots, right? 2 shots of coffee in it. And that's how we need to look at reps. Like I feel like sometimes people are doing 1 shots, people are doing 3 shots. Like, like reps just look different. They're rushing it, or it's like super slow, or maybe it's a bit wonky, or maybe your hands are too wide or too, like we need to have a standard for every exercise so that we can know that, okay, we're doing this 8 times. And then next week we're doing it 9 times, or we're doing it, heavier, but for 8 times, like to apply progressive overload. But it's very hard to apply progressive overload when every time it's different. Like, yeah, like, like unless I change the tempo and it's like, okay, we are doing a different thing, then that's fine. The standard has changed. I've changed it. But if you're 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week in the program, those reps should look the same, because that's the only way to know how you're actually getting stronger. Like if you did like 100 pounds or what, 87 kg for 3 reps at 3010, and then the next week you do 90, so it's heavier, but you do it 2010 and you're like, oh yeah, that's progressive overload. You're like, not really,
like exactly. It's just another way to slice the same, same piece of cake or whatever. So
Yeah.
And that's a really good point. And or when you think about from a entry level, like you all say with something like lateral raises, right? Adding 2.5 kgs every week to your lateral raise, like that's
Not happening.
no way. Yeah. So even if you're, doing for us 20 pounds or something, one week, and then luckily for us, we have dumbbells that go in increments of 2.5 pounds. So like what, 1
Yeah,
kg
1
or something
kilo.
like that.
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have that too. Like, see this rack here, but it's usually just up.
Yeah.
It's usually just up to 10. So what's that? 25 pounds, 22.5 pounds. And
Yeah.
after that, they kind of jump a bit more. But yeah,
Okay. Yeah, ours go up to 42.5 pounds, all in 2.5s,
oh, nice.
which is huge. Yeah. So for
That's
anyone who has a gym with that, like you're lucky. It's not common with the gyms here, certainly, and especially for things like lateral raises, something like that. I mean, adding 5 pounds to a lateral raise, that's real heavy. So
that's a big jump.
progressive overload on that, yeah, you can manipulate tempo if you need. Maybe add a couple reps at the end is something I've done. For example, like if I'm still feeling good after 8 reps at 3010, then if I keep it the same the next week, maybe I'll say I'll get 10 reps, or I'll go
Yeah.
4010, whatever it might
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, that's what you need to aim for. Yeah. I'm the
Mhm.
same. Like at the moment, I'm stuck on like 12 kilos. That's at my I still have a gym membership anyway. But like for me, technically here, 12.5, I would do that for 8 or 10. But for me to jump to 15s, it's like that's an extra 5 pound, 5 point something pound jump. And yeah, it's rough. I might get 6 reps that are
Yeah.
really good reps, and then the rest I'd have to like sloppily go over and like swing around if I ever wanted to do it, or I would just like have to breathe for 15 seconds, do like and then it'd be like a rest, pause, drop,
Mhm.
like like a
Or you're
rep.
just swinging with momentum. We all see those people in the gym just
Yeah, and then it's like,
flinging them up and down.
and then if I say, oh yeah, well I applied progressive overload, it's like, nah, but you didn't, because you had a rest in between, and once again now that standard has changed. Uh,
Hmm.
and it kind of feels like, okay, you sound like you're taking your lifting too serious, but I guess like, you've been training for a while. I've been training for ages. You kind of have to kind of get serious if you still want to make progress. Because if you don't get serious and you just keep everything like super casual, then it's kind of more frustrating than rewarding because you're not progressing. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the same with food. Like, if I'm like, oh yeah, whatever, I'm just going to bulk, but it's going to be like I don't know, sloppy bulk, or just like, I'll just eyeball it, and then I might just gain fat too fast. Then I'm like, oh shit, now I got to cut again. And like, I haven't built that much muscle. I've just got greedy and just eaten too much.
Hmm.
Now I got to restart it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Once you get to a certain phase, and for me, it's kind of been maybe since last year, after I was maybe a year and a half in with you overall, I said like, okay, I've made really good progress, but how can I keep progressing and take it to like another level
Mm,
if I can? And so that's kind of the part where I'm at now. For everyone else listening, if you've been working with Brock for a year or two, you might be at that kind of stage too. And that's why I'm just trying to figure, okay, like I've made some really, really happy with what I've done, and how can I take it to that next level um, where I want to go. So that's pretty
yeah.
much where
Yeah, man,
I'm
you
at,
have to keep it exciting, keep it progressing, or else it's just like, it just gets frustrating. And
for
then
sure.
I think that's why a lot of people can fall off. They feel like they've kind of almost clocked the gym, or like reached the point where they can't get better. But yeah, you kind of have to keep finding ways to win in some
Hmm.
way, like set these little goals. That like that's why hitting PRs or like PBs, like whatever you want to call it, personal records, personal best, hitting them in the gym is like important. Not just like, oh, I did 1 rep bench press for 90 kilos. It's more so like even just beating 8 reps and doing the same weight for 9, or like, like tracking the weights that you do can keep you kind of interested, or else you can just feel like you're just training. If you're not tracking your weights, how heavy you lift, like you're just doing exercises, and it's like,
Hmm.
is it better? Is it worse? Is it heavier? Is it, it just gets gray. I think the more gray things are, like the more you can kind of like walk away from it and just be like, oh, I think I'm
Hmm.
not doing anything.
Yeah, having goals at the end of it has been key, like actionable goals, attainable goals, not something you're never going to hit. So then you get turned off, or something that's too easy where you're just going to say,
Yeah.
okay, like that was hardly even a goal. So that's been kind of important for me. Like my next goal, for example, would be where I'm at, like, okay, I'm at the bottom of a cut, which I think I've done really well on, but
Yeah,
maybe
no.
how can I gain, um, eventually I want to end up at like 100 and probably like 75 pounds, which is 79 kilos. um, how can I get there while still maintaining, at the end of the day, I would love to be like 13, 15% body fat, which is going to be a long process and probably 2 years into it. But how can I get to that point where I'm 10, 12 pounds heavier than I'm going to be now, but still maintain that body fat? And that's why I'm asking questions like, okay, do I need to increase protein? Or I know it's just time, but it's all time, years and years, which I'm aware of. So just going to that level and having that end goal in mind for me, like I'm not going to stop until at some point around there.
No, that's a great question. I'll answer that and then we can wrap up. But yeah, so like I got a question today on my Instagram stories and it was like what's the deal with like maintenance body recomposition? Can I just do that? And it's like, that's a very slow way of doing things. I'm a big believer in bulking and cutting because that's probably the most efficient way to do it. You really double down on this and then you like do this, you know, like maybe like you really like build a house and then you flip it. Instead of like flip it and build a house at the same time, it's just like nothing really happens. So with that though, like if you look at my transformation, when I was a twig at 69 kilos, I'm now like 90, I was 92. That's like 23 kilos heavier, which is maybe 50 pounds. Like there's a big disparity between those two weights. I couldn't have done that if I tried to maintain recomp. Like, you know what I mean? That would have been a hell slow process. I'd probably be like 72 kilos by now if I tried to do that. But I was really starving myself and it was like pretty bad, you know, eating disorder, all this kind of stuff. There was a big dumpster fire going on. But anyway, I would never be who I am now if I didn't get in a surplus and just like owned that I was going to get a little bit fatter, going to get a little bit this, going to get a little bit of that. And then I cut down later on. So like to put it back into your situation, it's like you have to get into a place where maybe it's a little bit uncomfortable, especially because you've hit this reward of being so lean and you're going to go to Hawaii and have this beautiful holiday. You know, it is cool that it's wintertime potentially, you know, because it's a good time to do it. And you can just kind of like slowly chip away at building. But yeah, you kind of will, if you want to be 12 pounds heavier at the same body fat, there's no way you can just do that and just maintain and be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to happen, man. I'm just going to lift heavy, bro. Like it's not going to work. Like you'll have to create, it doesn't have to be a huge surplus because once again, there's gaining fat and gaining muscle. And the reality of gaining muscle is it's not actually as fast as you think. You don't actually have to eat as much as you think. Like my build is going to be very conservative. I'm going to be like 100 or 200 calories above my maintenance. So I'm going to be like, so my maintenance, obviously it's quite high, you know, so I'm very active and I've had a good metabolism from since I was young. My maintenance at the moment is around 3,400 because I lost a bit of weight. It used to be 35 when I was at like 92 kilos. Now it's like 34. So I'm probably going to be at like 3,600, 3,650, something like that. But that's like a very small surplus, like just above maintenance. So for you, I'd recommend something similar, man. Like if you, especially you want to hold on to that leanness that you've really earned, because dieting sucks. And the less time you can spend dieting, the better, right? Life is much better when there's more food involved. So if you can try to be, what calories are you on now? Or like, what's your maintenance?
My maintenance is like 2,800, I think, 29, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's cool.
Top of my head.
Yeah. So, but you might have to recalculate it at the end of your cut because remember, it's not the same when you start the cut. Like, especially if you've lost weight. How much weight have you lost over this kind of last period of time that you started?
I think I'm down like 9 pounds, 10 pounds. So
yeah, you're about 4 kilos.
5 kilos.
Yeah. So
I'm like a little over a pound a week loss on average. I mean, if you have a big like eating week or something, you lose some water weight or maybe it's bigger one week or whatever. But
yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So just kind of like reevaluate your maintenance. It's probably not going to be exactly the same as it was when it started. Just take that into consideration. And then when you are at maintenance after your cut, it might feel like you're gaining weight, but it could be your water and carbs. Like, man, I switched to maintenance this week. I hit the same weight and then I went up 500 grams. And then last night I went up again and I was like, shit, I feel like I'm almost a kilo heavier, heavier, and I'm just at maintenance. So maybe I ate too much. Maybe my tracking's a bit off. Maybe it's water stores, you know, like whatever. I'm just going to chill out and just kind of figure it out. If it still stays too high, I've probably overdone it. And maybe this is my new surplus or whatever. But yeah, just be very slow with it. You don't really need to, maybe 2,800 could be your new surplus at this lighter weight.
Yeah, that's a
But
good
don't
point.
worry, like, yeah, your metabolism can catch back up. It's just, you're a lighter person, and a lighter
Mhm.
person burns less calories and all that kind of stuff. And you have less NEAT when you're in a calorie deficit as well than when you're at maintenance or surplus. Like, all these kind of factors play into it. So yeah, I would recalculate it, and maybe your new maintenance is maybe 26, something like that, and now your surplus could be 28, something like that.
Yeah,
Just to really
and
start
exactly. Yes. That's exactly what I was thinking. And I might bump up my protein just to try it, see how my body responds,
yeah.
and go from there. So, yeah, thanks for kind of helping with all that and talking through this. And
That's
uh,
good, man.
for all your other clients, I know it's a lot of people are in fat loss, and I was so scared to go into my first like bulk. I was like, you got to be okay with mentally gaining a little bit of body fat. So, to me, it was well worth it. And once I got over that initial fear, which was just in my head of like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fat after my first bulk, which I did, I think last year. But um, you can easily lose it right off the year after, and that's exactly where I am at. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. Yeah. No, that's so good to say. And I'm still similar. Like, I still go through, like, just because I'm a personal trainer doesn't mean that I'm immune to feeling like you've put on a little bit of, body fat. You don't feel your best. Not saying that I struggle with confidence or self-esteem issues or anything like that, but everyone has an idea of what they feel like when they're at their best. And when you're not at your best, you kind of feel a little bit vulnerable. You're like, oh,
yeah.
maybe I'm not
Hmm.
feeling my best. But yeah, you got to kind of, that's why, once again, tracking weights, tracking how strong you are, like your PRs in the gym, like you're chasing numbers in the gym. That's the best thing to do, because it keeps your mind focused on like the bigger goal. Okay, like, this is what I'm trying to do. It's not just I'm getting fat for no reason and then I'm just going to get less fat later on. Like, it's very easy to look at it like that. And it's like, no, no, no.
Hmm.
You're kind of like investing into this muscle mass that you carry around. And when you're eating more calories, it's a good time to get strong, man. Like,
Yeah, and you're still making progress on your goal. It's still getting toward goals, and which I
100%.
like. And I guess the last point I'd make, and then we can wrap it up, is one thing I learned living in the States, and when I started kind of tracking food, since like I mentioned, I'm like pretty particular about it. In the States, food labels, you're allowed to round in the US. So however many, if it's 5 grams of carbs, that would usually equal 20 calories. But when you add up the labels and the calories in the States, the grams of carbs, the companies are allowed to round, I think it's like 15%. Like, we don't have decimals here in our,
Yeah, I heard it was 20%.
yeah, it's somewhere around there. Yeah. So I was like, for the first like 6 months, year tracking, I'm like, why are my in my fitness pal, like the calories would never match up. It's
Yeah.
just like, well, I was like, what in the world is this? And I looked it up and I was like, oh, if only I knew that at the beginning. So I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there might have just started who are like, what is going on? The US allows some pretty big, that's like 20% is huge sort of margin. I think even if like a company's, if you have 4.5 grams of food in something that they make, like they can round it down to the lower number if they want.
Right.
I think it goes all the way down even to that scale too. So, I mean, I know it's very minute and a very detailed thing. I don't know if other people will look at it, but it was something I learned along the way, is that nutrition labels you are allowed to round down. I know when I've been in Europe before, they have decimals on their nutrition labels, which I also thought was helpful. So
We have, yeah, like for example, here, just like looking at this yogurt, there's decibels, like protein 14.9, fat 0.3, like,
doesn't exist here. Yeah.
yeah, maybe Aussie has different standards than America, but yeah, that's crazy, man. But like, if you
Yeah.
think 20%, let's say we have 3,000 calories, we could be 600 over.
Exactly
20%.
right.
Like, I could think of losing
Nuts.
weight, and then I'm literally like, yeah, 3,000, I'm going to lose weight. And then I could be eating 3,600. I could be gaining weight. Like, that's how big the discrepancy is.
Yeah, and if if you're eating something that you think it's 14 grams of carbs because it says that on the package, and you're eating a lot of it,
Mm.
and maybe it actually is 14.7, you in the US, somewhere along there, you can round down to that 14 and you would be eating a higher amount and not even know it. So it is a bummer. I think it might just be a US thing, but it is something to keep in mind for everyone, and something I wish I knew a lot earlier, just in terms of tracking food, because it was annoying.
Yeah,
So
I think a way around that is just tracking. And then if you're not losing weight, like, just bringing your calories down, because
yeah.
the discrepancy is maybe just throwing you off. If
Mhm.
it is the case of this, there's so many other factors. Maybe you're just
For
eating
sure.
too much. maybe you're forgetting to track the pieces of food that you're eating that your kids had, and like all this kind of stuff. Maybe there's all this kind of stuff, but that is it's a very solid point. Yeah. No,
Yeah. If you're dialed in and really on top of it and still, having issues, I don't know, it helped me a little bit when I was starting out, and I was like, oh wow, this label is like just wrong. Like it doesn't add up to the calories it says, like what's going on? And then I, learned the United States law where they can fudge the numbers up to 20%. Go figure. So
that's
it is what it is. But yeah. So anyways, that's all I had for you. I'm sure I've taken enough time, but thanks again for doing all this and doing these calls.
Man, awesome to chat, man, and super proud of your progress. Would love you to send through some photos, man. You have my email.
Yeah.
Just send it through. I'd like to just, if I can chime in or anything, and even just see your progress, because I think I probably still have the ones that you have when we first started. It would be nice to see, your progression from when we first started and the progress we made together, and then to Built by Brock as well. We called to kind of patch up this timeline. But yeah, man, appreciate it. I'm just gonna say a couple of things. You can jump off. That's fine. And just kind of close out, just like end of the challenge stuff. But yeah, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you for everything, Brock, and you've been great to me and a bunch of others. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you, man.
All right. See ya, buddy.